I thought I was in the perfect marriage until I found a hidden folder on my husband's laptop labeled Project Wife. Inside were years of files, tracking my every move, analyzing my personality, planning my future without my knowledge. The worst part? I'm still not sure if I escaped in time. When did I first realize my so-called perfect marriage was actually a slow-motion nightmare? For years, I thought Damon and I were that couple, the golden pair. We got married at 23. His career in law taking off like a rocket, my art starting to get gallery attention. He'd smile proudly at my shows. I'd plan my life around his insane work schedule. And on social media, we looked flawless. Weekend trips to wine country, candlelit dinners with captions about true love, endless hashtags about being relationship goals. People never stopped telling us how lucky we were. The first crack showed up at my college reunion. During cocktail hour, my old roommate Alex spotted me across the room. She came over, smiling at first, but her eyes? They were searching my face like she was reading a warning label. "How are you really doing?" she asked. I laughed. "Amazing. Damon just made partner, and my latest collection is selling faster than..." "No." She cut me off, her tone suddenly sharp. "How are you really doing?" That stopped me cold. "What do you mean?" She didn't blink. "The way he corrected you 3 times at dinner. The way he ordered your food without even asking. The way you apologized to him when he spilled wine on your dress." I gave a nervous little laugh. "He just knows what I like. We're that connected." But her words didn't let go. They followed me home like shadows. The next week, I started noticing things I'd brushed off before. How his hand would grip mine too tightly when I spoke to other men. How he'd finish my sentences at parties, and usually get them wrong. How my wardrobe had slowly faded into muted neutral tones because bright colors are childish, and you look so much more sophisticated in beige. Then came my sister's birthday dinner. I went to the restroom, and on the way back I heard my family whispering in the narrow hallway. "She's completely lost herself." My mom's voice, soft and sad. "Remember how outspoken she used to be?" Dad added. "Now she barely says a word unless he approves it." Then my uncle, his words felt like a punch. "That man has isolated her from everyone who actually cares about her." And finally, my sister. "We can't confront her directly. She thinks this is healthy love. She's so deep in it she won't hear us." I stood frozen, my hand on the doorknob, my chest tight. When I walked back in, Damon was holding court at the table, telling my family why I'd shifted my art style. "Abstracts don't sell," he declared. "I've been guiding her toward more marketable portraits." I realized I hadn't painted something experimental in nearly 2 years, and it used to be the thing that made me happiest. That night, I scrolled through my phone with growing dread. My friendships? Gone. My art? Bland and commercial. My calendar? Entirely his life, his plans, his people. Then I stumbled on an old video, me before him. Paint all over my face, music blasting, laughing so hard I was almost crying. That girl felt like a stranger. The next morning, while he was in the shower, I called Alex with shaking hands. I need help," I whispered. "Thank God," she breathed. "I've been waiting 3 years for you to say that." "How long has everyone known?" I asked. "Since your engagement party," she said. "The day you rewrote yourself to fit him." That afternoon I found it. The thing that made my blood run cold. On his laptop, a folder labeled Project Wife. Inside, hundreds of files. Spreadsheets tracking my daily routines, my moods, even my menstrual cycle. Screenshots of every social media post, messages, and a psychological profile breaking down my weaknesses. But the worst part? A string of emails to someone named Dr. Harrison. Subject responding well to isolation protocols. Artistic focus redirected to commercial work. Social contacts reduced by 87% over 18 months. Increasing financial dependency. Will assume full control of banking to further limit autonomy. And the most recent, ready to begin pregnancy phase. Subject is sufficiently conditioned. Birth control will be discontinued without her knowledge in the next cycle. I had to clamp my hand over my mouth. I was shaking so hard I could barely scroll. There were photos of me sleeping, showering, dressing, video footage of me at home when I thought I was alone. Even recorded phone calls with my family, my friends, my doctor. There was a 5-year plan mapping out my life, where we'd live, how many kids I'd have, what art I'd be allowed to make. My personal allowance? $200. And in another folder, dirt on everyone I loved. My parents' debt, my sister's past struggles, friends' private scandals. Ready to be used if anyone tried to help me leave. I heard the shower cut off upstairs. My whole life had been an experiment. I wasn't his partner. I was his subject. My hands were trembling as I started snapping photos of everything. File after file. Saving proof. Footsteps on the bathroom floor. I slammed the laptop shut, sprinted to the kitchen, and forced myself to act normal. When he came down in his crisp suit, I was at the stove making his breakfast like always. "Morning, beautiful," he said, kissing my cheek. His lips felt like ice. "Morning," I replied, somehow steady. He scrolled his phone while I set down his plate. I watched him eat, thinking, this man is studying me like I'm a lab rat. "I'll be working late tonight," he said casually. "The Morrison case." "Of course," I said. "I'll keep dinner warm." As soon as he walked out the door, I grabbed my phone. "Alex," I said, my voice low but urgent. "I need to see you. And bring your friend who works in cybersecurity." 2 hours later, I was curled up on Alex's couch, the weight of my phone in my hand feeling heavier than I'd ever known. Across from me sat her friend Maya, a cybersecurity expert with eyes that could cut through stone. I slid my phone across the table. "These are the photos I took." She swiped through them in silence at first, and then her jaw tightened. "This isn't just controlling," she finally said, her tone low and deliberate. "This is criminal. The level of detail? This is obsessive-compulsive stalking on steroids." The words made my chest ache. "So what do I do? He has dirt that could ruin my entire family." Alex leaned forward, gripping my hands like a lifeline. "First, we get you safe. Then we take him down. Legally, so he can't touch you again." I shook my head. "I can't just vanish. He tracks everything. My phone, my car, probably the sweater I'm wearing right now." Maya didn't even flinch. "Then we make a plan he'll never see coming." For the next 4 hours, we worked on what Maya called an extraction strategy. Step 1. I'd keep playing the perfect wife while quietly collecting every scrap of evidence I could find. Step 2. Maya would help me create accounts he couldn't access. Banking, email, messaging, all under my maiden name. Step 3. Alex would quietly coordinate with my family, preparing them for whatever retaliation might come. Maya's one rule was clear. Under no circumstances can he know you've figured this out. "Men like Damon don't handle losing control," she said. "That's when they get dangerous." That night, I gave the performance of my life. I asked about his day, laughed in the right places, made his favorite dinner. He hovered over one of my new paintings like a disapproving professor. "The colors are too loud," he said. "Buyers want something subtle, something safe." I smiled like I agreed, all while mentally noting every tactic. How he framed criticism as helpful advice. How he positioned himself as the authority over my work. How he made me feel grateful for his control. Over the next few weeks, I became a double agent in my own home. While Damon was at work, Maya and I tore apart my digital life. We found spyware buried deep in my phone, tracking devices hidden in my car, and worst of all, tiny cameras scattered through the house. Every room, every angle. The only place untouched was his office, locked behind a fingerprint scanner. Maya taught me to use encrypted apps and set up a secret bank account. Alex warned my family about the surveillance, telling them to assume everything they said could be recorded. When I met my parents in a diner far from home, my dad looked furious. "He's been collecting on us for years," he said. "Why?" I asked, though deep down I already knew. "Control," my mom spat. "Leverage to keep you isolated." My sister's voice cracked when she told me, 2 years ago he came to me pretending he was worried about your mental health. I told him everything. About your anxiety, your perfectionism, your fear of being left after Dad's accident. It hit me like ice water. He hadn't just stumbled into my weaknesses, he'd researched them. And then he weaponized them. The real gut punch came when Maya broke into his email server. We found a thread with a name I didn't recognize, Drive E. Harrison. But the date stopped me cold. It was 2 years before we even met. Target identified. Subject fits profile perfectly. Artistic, empathetic, family-oriented. Recent trauma increases vulnerability to savior-complex conditioning. And Harrison's reply, excellent choice. Start with love bombing, then gradual isolation. Her personality type adapts well to total restructuring. My stomach churned. Who the hell is Dr. Harrison? Maya didn't sugarcoat it. Marcus Harrison, former psychologist, lost his license for unethical experiments. Now he works privately. Rich men pay him to design step-by-step blueprints to control their partners. Damon had paid him $50,000. For me, I wasn't a wife. I was a case study. The pregnancy phase in his files wasn't about starting a family. It was about locking me in permanently, biologically. That night, I lay awake next to him, staring at the ceiling while his breathing stayed slow and even. He'd stolen 3 years of my life, turned me into a stranger in my own skin. But he'd made one fatal mistake. He thought I was broken. The next morning, while he showered, I began phase 1 of my counterattack. Following Maya's instructions, I installed monitoring software on his laptop, the same kind he'd used to spy on me. Then I hid micro-recorders around the house, especially in his precious office. They were so small they looked like specks of dust. Over the next 2 weeks, I filled my phone with evidence. Recordings of him and Harrison talking about phase 3 of conditioning, bragging to colleagues about his perfectly trained wife, even footage of him rifling through my journals and photographing my private letters. But the real smoking gun? A meeting with his private investigator, where Damon's voice was calm, almost bored. I need to know when her family's vulnerable. If she ever tries to leave, I'll need immediate leverage. And the investigator's reply, I'll never forget it. We can arrange accidents if necessary. Make it look natural. I wasn't just living with a manipulator. I was living with someone who was willing to hurt my family. That night, I met Maya and Alex at a grimy 24-hour diner across town. We huddled over my phone as they listened to the recordings, their faces pale. This is enough for decades in prison, Maya said. Stalking, conspiracy, maybe attempted murder. But first, Alex added, we get you, and your family's safe. We mapped out Operation Liberation. 3 phases. Phase 1, secure my safety and collect the last of the evidence. Phase 2, bring in law enforcement. Phase 3, make sure Damon could never hurt us again. Timing would be everything. Phase 1 kicked off that Monday. While Damon was out of town for a legal conference, we swept the house. Maya documented every camera, every tracker, every device, 47 cameras in total. 47. In the bedroom, bathroom, closets, even my art studio. And in his office safe, cracked open in minutes by Maya's locksmith friend, we found something worse. Files on 12 other women. Same profile, same tactics, detailed strategies for dismantling their lives. Some of those files were marked deceased, car accidents, suicides, sudden illnesses. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't just married to an abuser. I was married to a man tied to a network of predators. And some of their victims never made it out alive. That night, when Damon came back from his conference, I slipped into my role like a second skin, smiling, serving his favorite meal, asking about the trip, laughing in all the right places, all while wearing a wire. Every word we spoke was being recorded for the FBI. I missed you, he said, brushing his fingers across my cheek. The same hands that had cataloged my every movement for years. I missed you too, I lied, forcing my lips into a smile while my stomach twisted in disgust. Phase 2 started the next morning. Maya's FBI contact, Special Agent Rodriguez, specialized in organized stalking and domestic terrorism cases. When we laid out the evidence, she flipped through the files with razor-sharp focus. "This," she said finally, "is one of the most sophisticated domestic surveillance setups I've ever seen. And if these other women are dead like we suspect, we might be staring at a serial predator network." I swallowed hard. "So what happens now?" Rodriguez's eyes didn't waver. "Now, we build an airtight case and we keep you breathing while we do it. Your husband cannot suspect we're onto him until we're ready to take down every last one of them." For the next month, I lived two lives. By day, I was still the attentive, compliant wife. By night, and in secret, I was a cooperating witness in a federal investigation. There were unmarked cars parked just far enough away to watch the house. Behavioral analysts studied every interaction between me and Damon. I learned to keep my voice steady even when Agent Rodriguez would murmur, "He's escalating. He's pushing harder. We think he's getting ready for what Harrison called Phase 4. My voice was barely above a whisper. "What's Phase 4? Rodriguez's answer was ice. "Total isolation. He moves you somewhere remote. No phone, no internet, no outside contact. Ever." The investigation cracked open fast once the FBI dug in. They uncovered 7 other victims. 4 alive, but barely, living in conditions that could only be described as captivity. 3 dead. Dr. Harrison was the first domino to fall. A raid on his so-called private practice turned up a graveyard of files. Over 50 women, 15 years of projects. Wealthy men had paid anywhere from $75,000 to $200,000 for his wife reprogramming packages. "Your husband," Rodriguez told me, "went for the deluxe model." The mountain of evidence against Damon was huge. But the timing had to be perfect. One wrong move, and the rest of the network could scatter and erase everything. The night before the arrest, I lay in bed beside him, knowing this was the last time I'd ever have to pretend. I thought about who I was before him. Confident, messy, vibrant, surrounded by love. And who I'd become. Anxious, muted, afraid to breathe without permission. And then, who I'd be after tomorrow. The takedown happened at 6 a.m. sharp. Federal agents hit every target at once. Damon, Harrison, their partners across 3 states. I was already awake, adrenaline buzzing in my veins. When the pounding on our door started, I shook Damon's shoulder. "Someone's here." He sat up groggy, then froze at the sight of unmarked SUVs filling our driveway. His phone rang immediately. Agent Rodriguez's voice, firm and calm. "Mr. Damon Walsh, this is the FBI. Exit the residence with your hands where we can see them. Do not touch any electronics." I watched his face cycle from confusion to realization, to fear, and finally to pure, cold calculation. He turned to me, eyes narrowing. "You clever little bitch. How long?" "Long enough," I said, my voice flat. He reached for his phone. "I wouldn't," I warned. "Every call, every text, every email for weeks has been recorded. All of it's evidence now." The mask slipped completely then, the warmth gone, replaced by venom. "You don't know what you've done. The people I work with don't forgive betrayal?" I cut in. "Neither do I." Agents swept in seconds later, cuffing him and reading his rights. As they led him past me, he glanced back. "This isn't over. You'll never be safe." Rodriguez appeared beside me, her voice like steel. "It's over. Your whole network is gone. 37 arrests. 12 states. No one's coming for you." And then he was gone. I stood alone in the bedroom that had been my cage for 3 years, and felt something I hadn't in so long I almost didn't recognize it. Freedom. The legal battle stretched 18 months. Damon and Harrison both got life without parole. Others in the network pulled 15 to 40 years. The FBI's work even reached across borders. This was the biggest organized domestic abuse takedown in history. I testified at multiple trials. I told my story in my own words. Terrifying, but also electrifying. The media attention was overwhelming, but it brought other survivors forward. Letters started pouring in from women who recognized themselves in my story. who escaped because they saw the signs in time. I learned everything in court. Harrison's files had mapped out my mind like a lab report: fears, triggers, vulnerabilities. Damon had followed it like a manual. But there was one line in a later report that I clung to. Subject shows unexpected resilience. Conditioning less effective than anticipated. Recommend escalation. Even at my weakest, some part of me, stubborn, unyielding, had refused to disappear. 6 months after Damon was sentenced, I walked into a gallery with my name on the walls for the first time in 4 years. The collection was called Reclaim. Every piece was pure, unfiltered me. Abstract swirls of color that refused to sit quietly on the canvas. It wasn't art for approval. It wasn't art for sales. It was art for survival. Alex stood beside me during the opening, watching strangers linger in front of my work. "You're back," she said. I shook my head, my eyes locked on a painting alive with gold and violet defiance. "No, I'm someone new. Someone better." My family came too, filling the room with the kind of warmth I'd almost forgotten existed. My sister brought her new boyfriend. My parents held hands like high school sweethearts, and my uncle kept wiping his eyes in plain sight. "We never stopped hoping," my mom whispered when she hugged me. "Even when it looked like you were gone, we knew you were still in there somewhere." The show sold out in 3 hours. But honestly, the real win wasn't the money. It was that, for the first time in years, I felt like my own person again. Not who I was before Damon. Someone stronger, sharper, free. Maya was there too, her arm around her girlfriend, both of them grinning like they just watched me cross a finish line. Without her expertise and Alex's stubborn loyalty, I might still be trapped. "What's next?" Maya asked. I smiled. "Everything. Exactly how I want it." 2 years later, that's exactly what I'm doing. I live in a sunlit studio filled with plants, canvases, and music Damon once called pretentious noise. My walls are alive with abstract paintings that bleed color and emotion. My calendar is stacked with people and plans I actually want: coffee with friends, art trips, advocacy work. I work part-time as a victim advocate, helping other women spot the red flags I once ignored. The FBI still calls me when they crack cases that look like mine. I've become a bridge between survivors and law enforcement, using my experience as both a warning and a weapon. I'm in therapy, learning to trust my instincts again. Some days, the old anxiety tries to creep back, checking locks twice, tightening up when someone asks too many personal questions. But I'm healing. I date carefully now. I know the signs. I can smell manipulation before it's even in the room. Love bombing, isolation, control. I can spot the pattern from a mile away. And my art is deeper now. Messier. More alive than anything I made before. Museums have started calling. Alex is still my ride or die. And slowly I've rebuilt other friendships too. Turns out, once you cut out the poison, the real connections come back stronger than ever. Sunday dinners with my family are loud and chaotic again, the way they're supposed to be. Everyone talks over each other, argues about politics, then hugs too long when it's time to leave. Last month, I got a letter from one of the women the FBI rescued because of our case. She'd been trapped for 7 years. Now she's in grad school studying trauma recovery. "You saved my life," she wrote, "and you showed me that no matter what they take from us, we can take ourselves back." That letter sits on my easel. A reminder that survival isn't just about escaping. It's about deciding to live again. Sometimes I think about how easily this could have gone another way. If Alex hadn't pulled me aside at that reunion. If my family had given up. If Maya hadn't said yes to helping a stranger. If the FBI hadn't believed us. I might still be in that perfect-looking marriage, fading out of existence one compromise at a time. Or I could have been just another tragic accident in Dr. Harrison's files. But I wasn't. I fought back. And in doing so, I became something Damon and his little army of psychological experts never planned for: someone unbreakable. The woman they chose because she was ideal to mold ended up being the one who destroyed them. Now, when I'm in my studio with music blaring, paint splattered on my arms, wearing whatever color I want, I think about those files. The charts, the plans, the careful predictions of how I would react. They calculated every weakness. But they didn't count on my desperation turning into clarity. And clarity turning into strength. Damon tried to erase it, to twist it, to own it. But strength like that, you can't kill it. My life now looks nothing like the one he mapped out. I'm loud. I'm messy. I'm experimental. I'm mine. I paint for me. I travel where I want. I choose my people and my path. And when I look in the mirror, I don't just see the girl from that old video, the one dancing in her studio before she ever knew his name. I see someone who's been tested and survived. Someone who will never mistake control for love again. 3 years ago, I thought I was lucky. I thought I'd found a man who cared enough to make me better. I didn't know the people who truly loved me were watching me disappear. I didn't know my perfect husband saw me as a science project. And I didn't know how strong I was. Now I do. And that more than the arrest, more than the conviction, more than the sold-out shows, is the real ending to this story. I remembered who I was. And once I remembered, nothing in this world could make me forget. Because the most perfect thing I've ever had isn't a marriage, or a career, or even freedom. It's knowing I'm exactly enough, exactly as I am. And that's something no one will ever take from me again.